you live on the East Coast, you may have noticed how hazy things are outside. A wildfire across Canada has sent smoke pouring into the eastern United States. Officials are warning that Americans not to spend too much time outside. News Nation has the report. Let's watch.
Smoke from Canadian wildfires is creating hazy days and health alerts here in the U.S. This video from Manhattan shows why the city remains under air quality alerts again this morning. New York City officials urging residents with any health issues to limit outdoor activities unless absolutely necessary. Our Dre Clark live in New York City with the very latest. Dre, good morning.
Kelly, good morning. You know, if you're waking up in cities like Baltimore, Boston, or Philadelphia, you may be seeing or smelling smoke. New York City now has the third worst air quality in the world. This according to IQ Air, which monitors air quality globally. Detroit is now listed at number 2. Heavy winds are now pushing smoke from those wildfires in Canada south into the U.S. here. Almost the entire state of New York and most of the northeast region of the country is now covered with the haze of very unhealthy air, affecting millions of people. Take a look here. Parts of New York City, the skyline yesterday were barely visible as the smoke moved in, covering the city with that heavy haze. Traffic on bridges coming into the city slowing down almost to a crawl at times as visibility slowly diminished. This video taken at a Yankees game last night, coming up here in a moment, showing the smoky overcast right there. Still, the game went on. New Yorkers also warned yesterday the air quality for the city was considered very unhealthy, especially for those with breathing issues or heart problems. 17 states across the country, mostly in the Northeast and parts of the Midwest, have now issued air quality alerts. The American Lung Association saying, if you can see and smell the smoke, consider yourself exposed.
Yeah, we're here in D.C. I noticed it yesterday. I was on a scooter, of course, coming back home from an event, and I started coughing like out of nowhere. I just started coughing and coughing and coughing, and I couldn't stop. And I was like, what is going on? I was worried I was getting ill, as I do from time to time. You're going to be very upset with me when I sat down in the chair. You'll be like, he has COVID again. But I felt fine otherwise. And then I saw the report, and I'm like, oh, that's it. And then, yeah, sure enough, this morning, as the sun was rising, I get a lot of natural sunlight in my apartment in the mornings, and it did have this very, very odd haze about it.
Yeah, well,
you can tell.
This is being caused by these wildfires in Canada that have been burning for a month. They've been burning through the equivalent of 5 million football fields. That's the scope of the number of hectares.
5 million?
6.6 million acres is the amount of burn that's been happening. It's been happening for about a month, but the fires apparently intensified, and a state of emergency was called in Alberta on May 4th. There are apparently more than 400 active fires, with almost 250 deemed to be out of control. As the report mentioned, this is affecting most of the Northeast United States through the Midwest. Detroit was the second worst air quality in the world right now. We're used to seeing these kinds of reports out of places like India. I was on a trip there some years ago for a wedding, and the day after I left, there was a horrible air quality warning in places where I had just been. You couldn't see across the reflecting pool, and then the photos of my other friends who were still in the area.
Wow.
And it's horrific to look at, but not something that we are used to having to experience in the United States. And it is an incredible warning of things that might come potentially if we continue to have bad wildfire seasons. Californians have been used to this sort of thing happening for years. The question is, and this is a debate that is now emerging, is how much does this have to do with climate change, if at all?
Right. There is a debate over extreme weather related to climate change. Many people say that extreme weather has gotten more common because of climate change. There's also some skepticism of that, and also some, despite having more extreme weather events because of technological change, fewer people die as the result of extreme weather, earthquakes, hurricanes, et cetera, in modern times than used to because of the technological advantages, which have then generated some of the climate change issues. So that's the debate over how to handle it.
So specifically, the concern is that a shorter rainy season, less snow cover, et cetera, has created drier ground conditions than typically exist, which is contributing to the spread. And there are enormous economic consequences to these kinds of events as well. And some people perhaps cynically argue that it's not going to be an interest in public health that is going to change public behavior here and have people more attentive to climate change issues. But the sheer fact that so many millions of acres are being burned down, so many humans are dedicated to trying to control this. I'm sure there are farms and homes and the like that are caught in the wake. And are the costs eventually going to be so immediate as opposed to this abstraction in the future, we're not going to be able to do X, Y, and Z, that someone actually does something about it. It's also worth noting that Eric Adams, at least in New York, is recommending that people who have any health problems, any respiratory problems, asthma and the like, stay indoors, but also wear high quality masks outside, either a KN95 or an N95 mask.
I saw more people than I usually see at this time in the pandemic and this time of the post-pandemic. There were people outdoors today wearing masks. I think the good news for those of us in the D.C., Philadelphia, Baltimore area is that it looks like it should pass over the next few days, and they're expecting better conditions. By the weekend, obviously, if the fires continue to burn out of control, we could get hit with another gust of dangerous smoke in the future. But it sounds like we're not in for too many more days of this.
Yeah, well, stay safe in the interim. Maybe mask up, and we'll have more Rising for you after this.